We ready, Liz?
Yes, sir.
All right, why don't we get started, gang? We've got another 6 presentations to do.
Probably.
It was a hard thing.
Yeah.
And first of all, welcome everybody. We are having a lot of good presentations today. I'm looking forward to this. Before we get too deep into that, let's see, let's do the approval of the minutes. And last week's minutes, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, and John with the motion and Daryl with the second. All in favor? Right. Moving on. So let's see, we're going to do this in the same way the 4th, 5th, and 6th presentation are from the same folks, and they're going to present all at one time. So our timing is going to be a little different. We're not going to shorten them because 15 minutes is over. So we'll allow them more than that. Liz and I are on cue with that. And so that'll be going effectively and efficiently that way. And what am I forgetting? Like I had.
Keith at the end.
Oh, yeah, I will, and he, yeah, probably. So, after the presentations, Keith Sanders will be here. He's going to kind of go through a lot of how the budgeting and everything has been putting through. I've met with him a couple of times throughout all of this. As I mentioned, met with him a week and a half ago with Josh. He explained to me, and we still had some questions last week, and he asked and he said he could be here. So after the presentations, we'll have him cover some things, be a good chance for us to ask a lot of questions as well. So we'll look forward to that. At the end, we'll cover a few more business items. But if there are no questions or any concerns at this point, we'll go ahead and jump into the presentations. And
Can I ask a quick question?
oh, yes, you may.
I noticed the packet that we got does not include the depot Russell College Avenue.
There weren't any slides for it.
Sorry?
There aren't any slides for it, just the
Oh.
paper submitted, just the submission.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And so Steve, if you'd like, we can hop up to this podium. Let me move that for you a little bit.
Steve, when you have 1 minute left, it goes like this in yellow over here, and I'm just the last, it's gonna rip in it, and Right. Thank you much.
And Steve, one more thing, since we have a nice audience today, questions will remain with the committee only. If you're part of the presentation, and I mentioned this to both of y'all, please go up to the podium and be a part of it. I have something to say in that part. Thank you. All right, Steve, you got it.
So where's the camera? Right here? No, where's the camera?
Camera is coming from that wall.
So am I on television or no?
Yeah, this is being videoed.
Your
yeah.
voice is, you've been.
Video.
Your voice.
So where's the camera? Where's the video?
Right there.
So you're gonna see me from this side or?
You are welcome to face camera and us. We're the ones voting though, so make sure we understand what you're saying.
Well, I've been thinking about being on the World Wide Web now. As long as y'all, so how do I get on the camera? How do I face the camera?
You can face to the left of the screen.
Yep, if you're right there, you're in.
You're on camera.
Yeah.
All right, so this gentleman said something about trestle proposal. What was that again?
He asked if you had a PowerPoint presentation, and we told him you do not.
No.
Okay.
And I've entered like 6 SPLOST proposals. And a lot of it has to do with glass structures down on our river to enhance our river. And also reservoir sites to enhance Clean Water Act of 1970 or John 21:6 or reservoirs. That's where it's going to be. That's what's going to happen in the future. I've got like 5 or 6 reservoir sites, fresh water, fresh spring water the Loop Reservoir has to be reestablished. I don't know why. From what I heard, the county didn't want to spend money on keeping the dam up, so they sold it. And now it is no more. And that is a deep water reservoir that will sustain trout, ice skating, recreation. I used to swim in that reservoir and walk on the ice when it froze. The good thing about this area, we get plenty of freezing weather, but we can't enjoy it. We get snow once every 10 years. But it does freeze here. But one of the resumes is right where a friend of mine, Lizzie Mae Gordon, lived, right at Strickland and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway. Now, the Strickland Creek is a freshwater creek. I think the county recently did an upgrade on it. And that reservoir turns out to be only about 2 or 3 feet deep when it's bulkheaded, when Strickland Creek is stopped up. It'll flood that area, that plain, 2 or 3 feet. When in the winter, when we used to do that and it froze, we used to ice skate and slide on the ice among the trees. That is a real, it's the North Pond branch of the Oconee River. It comes out of the banks all over the place. And the topography leans towards reservoirs, deep water reservoirs that will sustain rainbow. Okay, I don't know why we ever toppled the dam that's on the university property over on the other, where you cross Whitehall and go down to the Barnett Shoals hydroelectric plant, the first hydroelectric plant in the state. For some reason, y'all toppled that dam. And I had fishermen that were real upset about it because the crappie come up from Lake Oconee to that dam. They come north. Okay, a deep water reservoir in this area is deep enough to sustain trout. If you want to know, does Steve know what he's talking about? Okay. These reservoirs should have pine trees planted around the perimeter of them, around the shoreline. Because when pine straw falls into the water, catfish spawn in the pine straw. You can, if you find a pond, like a cattle pond or something that has pine trees and you can get to the wade out in it and scoop up a bale of pine straw and throw it up on the shore, you got, in the spring, you've got little baby catfish with little bitty whiskers, little bitty guys. Okay, so I'm going to get off track, but I guess I'm going to use all 15 minutes. Deep water reservoirs, we can get fingerlings from several fresh pond hatcheries on Highway 60 north of Dahlonega. The southernmost U.S. hatchery is in Suches, Georgia, just north of Dahlonega. And they supply all of the mountains with trout, all the different species of trout. Our reservoir proposals are deep enough to sustain trout. So what you do is you take a cooler, a couple of coolers, and you take them to one of the fresh pond hatcheries and buy, they cost $1 each. Buy a couple of 300 of them, put some ice in the cooler and bring them back and let them go in the reservoirs. And they will spawn and they will survive. 2 things, birds and fish. They migrate north because they like clean water. All right, let me get back to them. All right, I'm not going, I'm going to ramble. But as far as the trestle is concerned, you need to close the road. I suggested fluorescent orange styrofoam tubing hanging at 8 foot, 100 feet back from the trestle on each side, so that the fluorescent orange tubing would hit the windshield and they would realize they're fixing to run up under the trestle. That to me was only going to cost a couple of $100. You run a cable, you hang some styrofoam orange tubing, It hits the windshield and then they run up under the trestle and they think, well, that's what that friggin' orange styrofoam tubing was about. So I'm withdrawing that. Because somebody for orange styrofoam tubing put a $474,000 price tag on it, which I have no idea what that's for. I have, my proposal was styrofoam tubing, couple of $100. $474,000, this is what I'm suggesting. You put in some of those big cement, DOT cement blocks right under the trestle on both sides. You can't go under the trestle anymore. This county has claimed the liability of that trestle at the tune of $474,000. As long as that road's open, you're gonna have people who's gonna run under it. I don't care how many yellow lights you put out there. I don't care what you do. You're gonna have people who's gonna run under that trestle. The engineers at the depot tell me it happens 20 times a year. It's amazing there hasn't been a fatality or an injury brought against this county for that trestle. So what do you do to get out of the liability? You close the road. You close it down at Cleveland Avenue. You put cement blocks under the trestle. If they get that far, they're not going to be able to go under the trestle because of big cement blocks there blocking it. On the other side, I would say the intersection, Hoyt and College put up some orange block, some orange blocks in the road and signage. This road is closed. All right, the road's closed now. I wanted y'all to close, the Milky Way Parkway at the loop so that we could enhance our park system. But it doesn't look like that's going to happen because it's a collector road and I'm good with that. And these one of these SPLOST referendums that I just have entered, if I can get that done, I won't care if the Daytona 500 is coming down my road or not, because that 441 traffic is 60 and 70 miles an hour on a 35-mile-an-hour zone. And I have circulated faxes to all the enforcement agencies, to the government departments. I want a guardrail in front of the property that's under application to the National Register. A guardrail that runs the full length of the property. Me and my baby's wife and friends will sit behind that guardrail and watch the Daytona 500. We are just on the verge of requiring emission tests in this county. That's going to do away with the Daytona 500 in a real big hurry. I'm not putting it in my name. That's what you're asking. $474,000 for styrofoam tubing. You block.
All right, Steve, your time has elapsed.
Okay. Reservoir proposal is self-explanatory. You close the road, you spend
Steve, I
400.
have this for you, if you will take it with you. No way.
I'm like-
We
We can Q&A.
Yeah, we can do 5 minutes of
Yeah.
question and answer.
Question.
Yes.
You've got a question?
Adversity. The first thing when you experience adversity, you add verse. John 21:6 is about the reservoirs. You substitute King James Version of right as starboard. And it has to do with reservoirs.
So we'll do questions and answers. Yes.
How much is, how much is it gonna cost?
According to whoever put the price tag,
So about-
I don't even know. Somebody can enlighten me as to what $474,000 is for.
Somebody to like me on that one too. I'm just trying to figure out for what you are suggesting, what is the price for that?
The price of 4 huge concrete blocks, 2 on either side of the trestle. Forget the styrofoam tubing. Come back to Cleveland Avenue and Hoyt and College and put in orange breakers. Make it where the residents, the people that live in the townhouses and stuff, and then you're gonna have a turnaround because somebody's gonna try and make their way through it. They can turn around from the top in the depot parking lot. you know, they'll make a turnaround in the College Avenue. These people, flatly, if you don't close the road, you're gonna have people run up under the trestle. It's that simple. Close the road, relieve the liability. It's that simple. $474,000 in that SPLOST. I'm suggesting you contact the LLC, the Athens line of the Hartwell Railroad. I'm not too sure. It's the upper and lower Pulaski Creek Reservoir proposal, SPLOST proposal is right there. And it's gonna be with the SPLOST. I missed the deadline. The two reservoirs, I've seen them stopped up by the beavers. It's a deep water reservoir, upper and lower. Recently, an LLC has taken, it used to be owned by a private owner who leased that land to the railroad. That man passed away and it was taken over. Now it's in the hands of either Walton County Railroad or Hartwell Railroad, but the sign says, and that the signage is in that upper and lower reservoir proposal. Yes.
I have a question. Maybe it's for staff. I'm just not sure why, like, we have the different breakdowns for the other projects, but how come we don't have one for this one?
Is there not one in your submission?
No.
Yeah, I apologize. There is a cost breakdown missing, but there was not a presentation given to us.
Right, but just having something to look at, just
We
to,
have, the price breakdown.
just to reference, yeah.
Right. I'll be happy to pull it up for you.
You're asking what is the $474,000?
Yeah, because for all the other proposals, we have these papers that show like the different breakdowns of all the different costs.
Mine was included, but the cost was so insignificant.
It is in this submission and,
I get that, but it's just nice to have it so we can look at it.
yeah, well, that's one reason I'm bringing this because
I asked Ronnie left me a voicemail. He said it has something to do with some kind of alarm system, some kind of system that immediately alerts first responders, police department. It's some kind of an elaborate siren lighting. You're still gonna have, it's claiming it. You are claiming the liability. You're gonna hook up a big system that says, we're gonna come to your rescue when you run under it. You got a $474,000 price tag on claiming complete destruction. I've been screaming about that trestle since Overholster, way before Overholster. It is a travesty.
Mr. Dashiell, the information on your projects behind you, just so, on the screen.
Construction, 400, what is $300,000 construction? Construction of what?
It's the exact same as we had earlier. I think they just had construction minimum at $300,000. If you look at the other projects that were really small things that didn't cost very much money, there was a minimum and it ended up being $447,000. So I think this is just what you proposed to such a small project so that they went with the minimums, which are totaling to.
And you want my name on that?
I'll read it.
I want my name on, you want my name on taking money from SPLOST on something that is $300,000 add-on. No way. I'm taking my name off of this.
So who put that $300,000 on there? Who?
I have no, Ronnie gave me a call trying to explain it. I still don't know.
15 minutes is up. So if you've got any more questions, go through the app and please send those in and we can
Close it.
pass that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Danielle, or is Danielle here yet?
Actually, I'm Elise, this is Scott, we're the ones presenting, Danielle submitted it,
Okay, perfect. And this is Oconee Street Trail Bridge.
correct.
Okay, yes, y'all may come up.
Please stay close. We're not kissing.
they can see because.
Yeah, so we're not blocking the view.
I will just go to yellow when you have a minute remaining, and then it will go to red. That bridge.
Ages.
Y'all come in.
Okay,
All right, when y'all are ready.
we're ready then. So thank you. Thank you for listening to us tonight. Good evening. I'm Elise Stengel and this is Scott Long, and we are here from the Friends of the Greenway to talk about an Oconee Street Trail Bridge to connect the Greenway and the Firefly. So spoiler alert, this is a trail crossing, supposed to be a clear and safe trail crossing. Next. So as the Friends of the Greenway, we're a nonprofit group to support and promote the Oconee Rivers Greenway in Clarke County for the benefit of the Athens community. This is our current board.
So a little context, one of the things that we have here in Athens, Georgia, lucky to have it, is our Greenway network and the Firefly Trails. They exist now and they've taken decades to get them, but, and they're a part of our low stress transportation network, but we have got a little bit of a problem. Next. So when you think of the Firefly Trail, you're thinking rails to trails, pretty flat, an idyllic scene here. We got a lot of these photos that don't have a lot of text because you can really get a lot more information based on the low stress transportation option that this gives you. Next. A little bit different season, but same sort of attitude. Low stress, we're gonna just enjoy ourselves on this rail trail. Next. Different season, but we're still having a good time. Low stress, we get to carry our kids out there and not have to worry about getting any interaction with car traffic. We can just enjoy a day on the trail. Next. And we're gonna try to get to the Greenway, but let's see what happens when we get a little bit closer. Next. This is supposed to be a trail crossing. Right now, there is a ton of construction. It's very chaotic. Things are moving fast. As you know, plenty of cars run red lights all the time here in Athens. You see that here. The Waffle House doesn't even take customers anymore because of the traffic. Next slide. And then you get back to the Greenway where things are normal again. This is one of the newer stretches of Greenway that goes through the cemetery. Next. Again, low stress, easy to get around. This is part of our Greenway network in Athens-Clarke County. Next. This is a new section of the Greenway over on the east side. This is Carrs Creek and a bridge that got put in last year, maybe? Next. So here's the context. The Greenway and Firefly Trails are our low stress transportation networks here in Athens, but we have a problem. Next. This intersection where the Waffle House and the racetrack happen, the Firefly Trails over there, this is the Greenway. Getting people safely across there and as part of the low stress network is a problem. This is construction right now and it's chaos. Next. Again, this is supposed to be low stress. This person, I know this person, they rely on their bike to get around. We had quite some words talking about this intersection the day I was taking photos. Not low stress. Next. This is a group of UGA freshmen that we took across there. Things get a little tight on this island, waiting for the light to turn, and tons and tons and tons of cars. Next. As you can see, they kind of filled that up, and we are waiting for a while just to get through this. Next. This person, I think, works at the Waffle House and was just trying to get across the road in the middle of the afternoon. As you can see, there's not good sight lines. This person probably doesn't feel that safe getting across. Hopefully we can do something better. Next. And you might be saying to yourself, oh, okay, it's under construction. It's going to get better. This is before the construction. When they're done, that island is going to be gone. So when they're done, this will effectively be 10 lanes of traffic to cross over. Next.
And that's not a child. That is a fully grown adult.
Yes. So this is letting you know, this is the plans that our GDOT is working on. The Greenway and the Firefly Trail are between these 10 lanes of travel. Next. So again, 10 lanes of traffic on our low stress trail network. This seems like a big problem. Next. How do we fix it?
How do we fix it? We can build a bridge. So this is an aerial view. The next. And this is with, you can see the current trails, the racetrack, the Waffle House. So we got Firefly up at the top, the break there, and then the greenway here at the bottom. Next. And this is our proposed bridge location. This was our original project, which it does include a bridge from the Waffle House side to the park and ride lot. Next. We do have an alternate proposal that would be a little less expensive, that would not include that bridge, the park and ride lot. But one advantage of including that would be a place for UGA staff to park for free, that they could then go over that bridge into the UGA East campus. Next. So this is our project statement, that we propose a pedestrian bridge connecting the Greenway and Firefly trails over Oconee Street, and also connecting the park and ride. That this would improve commuting access to UGA and provide safer crossings for East Side, including Cars Hill residents, and inner East Athens, and enhances connections. So some of the connections that would be a lot easier to get to would be all the way to Winterville through the Firefly Trail, downtown, East Athens, Cars Hill, over to UGA East Campus and the new East Side Library. Next. So this is aerial view of all of it. Next. And here you can kind of see the current trails. So we have the Firefly, we have the Greenway. These are things that you can get to on our current trail network. Next. So with the bridge, and then also with the proposed East Side Library, it would be accessible. It would be 15 minutes ish from the inner East Athens section all the way to the East Side Library by bike, scooter, skateboard, with this bridge there, making it safe to cross. Next. So here's just the proposal of where the East Side Library is going to be. That is the Greenway, that little trail there. It's going to go right behind it. Next. And this is what it looks like now. So the Greenway is already there. We're just waiting for the library.
So this project isn't something we just dreamed up ourselves. This is something that has wide community support. The Oconee River Greenway Commission is in support of this. The Firefly Trail Inc. Wants to see this happen. Bike Athens, the place that I work for, envisions a transportation network that all Athenians can use with confidence and ease. So supporting this is a no-brainer for us. Next. And again, we didn't just think this up. This is in the master plan. This is in the Greenway Network Plan already, and the May Courts MTP 2050 plan. The most important thing to know about that is this project is in there, but it needs local dollars. So TSPLOST is perfect for this. It may not happen unless TSPLOST does this. Next.
So we can do this. This is a problem, but other communities have figured out solutions. So we've got some examples of other pedestrian bridges. This is some resources, but we put them in here, so we're going to go on. So this is the Peneus Trail in Florida. It's a 45-mile trail that has 10 different pedestrian bridges on it. So you can see here it overarching. You can go to the next. This is a more local one over I-95 in Noonan. They took the opportunity to put some signage on there as well. So we would have the opportunity to put art, signage, maybe make a visual statement, just that people are entering more the downtown area, maybe need to slow down a little bit as drivers enter. Next. This is a bridge that was $5 million. It connects the Swamp Rabbit Trail in Greenville, or outside of Greenville, Malden, South Carolina. So that's a pretty impressive statement for $5 million. Next. This is a little bit of a smaller one. Another one near Greenville, where they built 2 Swamp Rabbit Trail bridges for a total of $6.4 million. And then locally, so we were looking at some of these when we were doing the estimates, but the Firefly Trail on-ramp bridge is, they built that, factored it in. And then we have the Trail Creek Trestle, which was about $8 million to do the 3 bridges in one. That is very nice to travel across. So this is a problem, but
We can fix it with.
we can fix it. And we can use this opportunity to make it safer for everyone to cross, pedestrians, bikers, scooters, parents with strollers. Instead of this, we could have a safe access connecting our already great trail systems that just have this one gap in the middle. And this is something that's only going to get more expensive to fix.
I think that's it.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you tell us on the pictures there, can you tell us where the $500,000 land acquisition would take place?
I guess, could you go back to?
Some of the aerial shots.
About this, but it was a. Bridge space.
Further back
Go on.
for the zoomed in one.
Keep it.
Yeah.
Yes, bridge space.
I mean,
There was a triangle. Go on.
that's the library one though, so that's not the one he's talking about. The triangle one was the library that's already.
Bridge space.
But what have you got to buy?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they mean either. I know they have to move 2 utility poles. Might have been the section there.
I can try there. So the answer to that is probably, we don't know exactly where. But if you're talking about a bridge, there's a possibility you're talking about land acquisition. Possibility we build in that sort of thing in the budget. Okay. Conceptual level.
I like the ideal bridge, I like the bridgeway, bridge over the Baldwin, South Carolina one, but my issue is this. I ain't in agreement with giving the UGA nothing.
This isn't,
I know, but you said UGA some free, no, they don't give us nothing. I just have a personal beef with them.
well, UGA does not maintain the Greenway network.
No. Just talking about when she's giving them, just making it
So
calm.
for staff, who I would not necessarily consider staff UGA. Staff and UGA are not always in alignment.
And for the record, anybody can park in that.
That's what I'm just thinking, I'm thinking of a cook out of situation that really. Cause I know they, TSPLOST was some convict to choke out. I like the idea.
Thanks.
Yeah, and two, it's, I mean, from the end of the existing Firefly Trail to, I know myself, to get to Foley Stadium is 14 minutes by bicycle. And that's getting through that crazy intersection, which I almost got twice in.
Right.
So great idea.
Could you go forward just a couple slides to the broader map?
Yeah.
Yeah,
More,
one more.
yeah, the
Exactly.
trails.
So yeah, I just want to state, fully support this project. I used to live out near Winterville at the edge of the Firefly Trail. And every day I had to bike into East Campus, in fact, and I had to cross that road right there. And crossing that road, like you said, that it goes from low stress to worrying about your life. There were so many times that cars just flew by or, would take a right turn without looking, especially at night if I was biking at night. And I had an e-bike, and it's like the Greenway Trail exists for a reason that we can do that. And I think even if people here don't plan on utilizing the Greenway, this is also a good opportunity for us to reduce traffic because Lexington is one of those busiest corridors out there. If we can reduce the time that people take at that pedestrian crossing and increase the number of people who do choose to walk or take bikes or park at the park and ride and take a bike from there or whatever else, that reduces all those cars that are already on Lexington, which will save time. So this is just a huge no-brainer project connecting some of the most missing links in the Greenway network and improving safety and efficacy. It's like, this is what TSPLOST was about, is to fund well-developed, already supported projects by the Greenway Commission, by the citizens that are just no-brainers for the people of Athens. And just, giving it the funding to move forward.
William.
Have there been any fatalities in any of those areas that you are showing?
Barnett Shoals has definitely had some fatalities. So if we're talking about a safer way to get there, that's one thing. That section, I'm not sure of any fatalities. I know I have seen someone get in the opposite lane thinking it was a turn lane, just directly facing traffic over there.
I would say regarding the fatalities, I don't have data on fatalities and intersections here, but when they are done, making it 10 lanes, think about the area where Alps crosses over Broad Street. We know there are fatalities where people are trying to cross there at night. It
This
can be
will
very
be
dangerous.
wider than that intersection. They're done.
Injuries instead of fatality. We're on the same page.
Stephen?
Yeah, I guess I was wondering if you had an idea of how much additional length it would be to go up the bridge and over and back down than just cutting across. Because I've seen where there's pedestrian bridge available and I've still seen people cut across the road, so.
Uh,
I think that's gonna be an engineer thing.
they're solving the option to just use a crosswalk there versus using the bridge. That's gonna be an engineering solution.
That's the conclusion of the questions.
Okey. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Structure.
It's so brief.
Victor Pope.
Are we up?
Say that right.
That way.
Building a bridge, likely. Bridge would be like.
Hey, how's it going? Good
Hey there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not.
All right, anytime you're ready.
All right, awesome. Hey, all, good afternoon, or good evening at this point. My name is Victor Pope, or Vic Pope, some of you will know me as. I'm the director of Athens-Clarke County Transit. This is really a part two to another TSPLOST 2026 request. One is a predefined option for our American Mission that handles the operational services of the department. This one is more aligned with the infrastructure needs for the transit department as we look forward into really 2025 through really the next 40 to 50 years of growth. The requests in this project are designed to both enhance the ability for the transit department to serve the Athens-Clarke County community and also to reduce the overall operating cost of the transit department as we move forward. Next slide. This little overview of our department as current, we have 6 paratransit vans which provide on-demand transit service to 88 eligible passengers, 32 heavy-duty buses, and 15 support vehicles. As we look forward into the future, currently we're working on the 2025-2029 Transit Development Plan, which outlines planned service enhancements to the Athens-Clarke County community to both offer an enhanced level of service, meaning more frequency, more service to requested destinations throughout the community, and also more direct service as well. Based on the feedback received from the community through both public comment and stakeholder involvement, we have outlined a plan to expand service and reduce headways to 30 minutes or less on all fixed routes. Right here, I've sort of got a overview of what that requires as far as our equipment goes. It looks like we'll need about 44 heavy-duty transit buses, so the typical transit bus that you see going up and down the street. And to support that fleet of 44 in-service vehicles, we'll need about a 20% spare fleet capacity. That brings us to a total of 53 heavy-duty transit buses to implement service plans and 10 transit demand response vehicles to help support in micro-transit zones or transit demand. The demand portion is very important as we look to expand the transit network. Typically speaking, fixed route transit does very, very well when you have a dense population center or great density in those areas. It does not do so well when you're going along the countryside or the more rural parts of Athens. For example, if you think about the northern side of Athens, there are people out there who need public transportation. However, a large transit bus is not the solution there. Next slide, please. So, well, actually I skipped a page. So, we're looking to right size our vehicles for the service delivery that we intend to bring to this community, and also change the propulsion type that we intend to operate with. Right here, we've got a pretty zero emissions, this in this case is an electric bus. And along with this new propulsion technology comes the opportunity to reduce operational cost in the long run. There, of course, is a large capital investment that's needed, but it pays off dividends in the out years. Right here, I talked about some of the benefits. As I mentioned, operational cost savings, reduction in petroleum exhaust emissions in our community, and also elimination of potential risk associated with the storage and usage of petroleum-based fuels and lubricants, for that matter. That's really important as we think about where we are in Athens currently at our existing facility. We're located right in the middle of a neighborhood. A very beautiful neighborhood in the heart of Athens that a lot of people hold near and dear, whether or not they live there or they're just visitors in that area. It's important that we are good stewards of the environment, and also that the community can depend on us to treat the environment that we all share with respect, and also without presenting additional hazards. Next slide, please. So we talked about vehicle right sizing. How can we better serve the community with the right size vehicles, whether that be smaller or in some cases larger? We experience extreme overcrowding on certain routes, which inhibits our ability to provide the level of access needed to get people to their destinations in a timely manner. But in the same instance, sometimes our vehicles are just too large for what we really need to do. For example, if we are providing transit on demand or microtransit, as some of you all have heard, services, we don't need a large vehicle. We need a smaller, a little bit larger than passenger size vehicle that's ADA accessible so that everyone has the opportunity to access it. The transit operations, sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. The transit operations maintenance facility. We're currently at our maximum capacity at our Pound Street facility right now. We have buses parked just in about every configuration possible to maximize the amount of space that we currently have there. And as I mentioned, we're going to need about 44 buses to operate in our weekday service level underneath the plans that are going forward for the 2025-2029 TDP. That's an expansion of 21 vehicles, more than what we currently have. That's about $42 million if we're buying EVs underneath today's prices. And also for the complementing microtransit service, we're looking at about 1088 accessible vehicles, about $1.5 million or $100,000. Well, $100,000 a piece. And if you look down here, Greenville was mentioned in the last presentation, and this is actually Greenville, Greenlink's transit maintenance facility, which they just built for about $55 million. When we're about comfortable on our fleet size, and so I felt that they were a good example to follow along with. Next slide, please. That's another shot of the transit facility there in Greenville. Just a little bit about the planning behind this. We're looking at 10 maintenance bays, 2 quick service lanes. So essentially, quick service is the ability to service the vehicle as it's going out on the roads, therefore decreasing the delays to service and remedying any issues that may pop up. Sometimes gremlins pop up overnight, a light goes out, and you need to just put it on the fly. Instead of pulling another vehicle out from the inventory, you're able to do it there and let that vehicle proceed on. Infrastructure for EV, bus, and support vehicle charging. And also, honestly, that includes future-proofing the facility as well for things such as hydrogen, if that's the route that this community deems as a avenue for advancement in the future. I personally like hydrogen, but the technology is still a little bit green, no pun intended. So instead of taking it to the community at this point in time, we're sort of hedging our bet a little bit and holding back before we push forward really hardcore on the hydrogen train. And also, of course, integration of solar energy generation technology. And that's very important as we try to constrain our costs going forward. If we are a manufacturer or harvester of some of our energy needs, that helps us basically gain less reliance on the grid. Next slide, please. All right, so next up, we're talking about the need for traffic signal prioritization and preemption. So this is another important thing for us, especially when it comes down to both service reliability and operational needs. So traffic signal preemption and prioritization actually has a twofold element to it. One is for the public transportation aspect in ensuring that we can maintain reliable routing and service schedules, and also from the public safety side, where public safety also has an opportunity to interface with this system and help them operate more safely as they go respond to incidents and accidents within this community. Essentially, it functions in conjunction with the intelligent transportation network that's already in place at some traffic signals and intersections within this community, and allows both, once again, public transportation vehicles and public safety vehicles to cross safely through the vehicle, thus creating a safer community for all. Next slide, please. Part of this is also the integrated transportation system that the transit department utilizes an older version of currently. But as we look to the future, we would like to go ahead and upgrade it, which will help us. Oh, snap. Wow. You shorted me.
Going to question and answers. Go ahead and I'll let you call.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to ask you about the next two slides, since we didn't get to them. You've got 600,000 to address 60 bus stops. We've already heard some presentations for people who need more bus stops. Does that include those bus stops that those people are asking for separately?
I am not sure, to be honest with you. I would be very careful about picking and choosing certain bus stops. That could get us into a disparity situation where without specifically calling on any project, if we're not equitable in bus stop enhancements or have a method that addresses the community as a whole, we just really need to be very careful about how we go about bringing out amenity enhancements to bus stops.
You know how many bus stops we have in Clarke County?
About 454.
Can you kind of tell me generally what the cost is of the EV bus versus like a hybrid bus that we have? And the other one is like, you mentioned operational savings with the EV buses. Kind of give me a sense of how much that savings is per mile basis or whatever metric you guys use.
Well, we're looking at about a 35% reduction in cost as far as EV bus versus a hybrid bus. It goes even higher. I can't remember the exact number for conventional diesel versus EV, but I would say it's probably close to 50%. You're reducing a lot of wear and tear items such as the ICE engine itself. Our hybrid fleet right now, if you all have been listening to the Mayor Commission discussions, actually is going through a repower right now with the engines on it. They're pretty pricey. But as far as fuel savings goes, we're looking at that alone somewhere around 50%. So it's pretty significant.
What's that dollar-wise?
That's about 400,000 if you look at our current fleet and our current fuel expenses. We're paying about $800,000, $850,000 a year in fuel.
So how much is an EV bus versus a hybrid?
Okay, so all right, now there's a little tight. So you're looking at about $2 million for an EV bus. And I talked so much during this presentation. Nice slide at the end. That talked about there we go. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this nice slide at the end is that there are grant opportunities available. So if you notice in the application, I think I estimated it somewhere around $106 million. And that's actually kicked out PD stuff. So, but we're really looking for grants, and there's a nice disclaimer down here as well about grants that they are not guaranteed. But if we were able to capture all the available federal grants that are pretty much on the books currently, we would need about $36.4 million from the local government to implement $104 million worth of infrastructure improvements. And this, if anybody here is familiar with the federal grant programs, you're like, hey, your math's a little bit wrong. It's a 80-20 split, right? 80% coming from federal government, 20% usually coming from the local community. In order to be really competitive when we're applying for these grant packages, we should probably look at upping our local contribution. And in here, this is indicating a 35% split versus the traditional 20% split. That makes us stand out amongst or above other communities who are competing for the same funds. And I didn't fully answer your question. I told you about the EV bus, but not the hybrid bus. The hybrid bus is about 1.5 million. Yes, ma'am.
So this proposal encapsulates new EV buses,
Yes.
a new facility,
Yes.
and upgrades to traffic lights or to things on vehicles to talk to traffic.
Both traffic lights and the communication vehicle on the bus.
Okay.
And
To capture everything, is there something else?
yes,
Okay, is that everything?
I do believe so.
Okay, cool, thank you.
On the traffic lights part, we done had quite a few come through here already, like traffic lights. Are they gonna be this, all those gonna be together with this one, or?
To some degree, yes, and also no at the same time. I'm more focusing on the technology that the traffic lights use to communicate with both each other as of course different signals. So also included in this is the connectivity needed, the fiber network needed for those traffic signals. But also on the vehicles, as mentioned just a moment ago, for the vehicles to communicate with those signals as well.
Okay, that, you were talking, the one we had earlier, it was the same thing that you saying, I'm like, are they gonna be included? Though, all those gonna be included, you know, the same proposal, I'm like, we get 3 different proposals when it could be all of them in one proposal.
So Vic, I think what Daryl is referring to is TPW had a presentation for smart city technology, which I think would work. Talking about is what.
DPW had a project presentation on smart traffic lights, which was pretty much exactly what you're talking about, using fiber optic cable network with upgraded signals to have traffic signal prioritization for transit vehicles and emergency vehicles and all that kind of stuff. So I assume that that would basically implement pretty much all of what they proposed in terms of, like, it would also, I assume, have prioritization for emergency vehicles and stuff like that. And then also, this would also presumably cover, I mean, the maintenance facility, the buses, and then also the electric buses, and then also the improved bus stops, which many of our proposals so far have been bus stops. And could you remind me if there's any other area that covers? And my last question, sorry, is for the amount that the mayor and commission already pre-allocated of our, we have like 16 million. They had pre-allocated like 40 million for the mall transit facility. And I was wondering, I mean, I know it's a completely separate project, but if those funds are able to tie in where, if that is funded, if there's any like benefit there that can be tied in.
So I do have to step in. We've gone over time on this. So if you'll that and send it.
I don't want to hear.
I was trying to catch a moment where you weren't going.
And if I can make a note, just to clear up a little bit of confusion, the paper slides that you have are a little bit different from the fresh slides that you see up here. We'll make sure you get those as well.
By the way, in favor of the Greenway project connecting to the park and ride, y'all.
All right.
Okay, next up, we have.
All right. Nice.
Thank you. And before you get started, does anyone need a break? Do we need to take 5 minutes or are we good to keep going? All right. Oh, okay. We're gonna do a 2-minute break, real fast.
Real fast, real fast.
I'll.
I'm just here and hooked on. Not at all. Have you been?
This is like the total. My only hesitation there is some of these things are binary, right? Like you either have fun if you know what a transit, or you don't. And
Pizza any good?
True, but it is, you don't want to allocate 15 million. Necessarily, it's not.
No.
Though we are, and I argue. That's true, that is. Ooh, it's a lot of, but we're giving them a bucket.
Where do they go to school?
They don't have any projects they can do. They can have 30% less money.
My monitoring, Teresa.
All right.
That's out.
We're doing grants and drives. I'm kind of favorite now. Oh, yes. No, I'm knowing it. I'm up in here. Always loves that. So everybody else. I will. But anyway, I mean, yeah, they want. I mean, it's.
I think.
Having grown.
All those things together.
Things are watching
And I'm sure that's not.
That's a good one.
Like I said, I also.
Okay, if we can go ahead and have our seats, we can get rolling again.
I see you later.
Hey, Daryl. Don't be late for my presentation.
Y'all know we.
All right, you are welcome to go when you're ready.
All right. Good evening, TSPLOST 2026 Committee. I'm Teresa. I am here with my good friend Alan Jones. Alan and I are both residents of the Timothy Road corridor, and Alan kind of got the party started in 2018 with a town hall that Commissioner Hamby facilitated, talking about problems with Timothy Road. So Timothy Forward, we're a group that's sort of loosely affiliated. We represent the neighbors along Timothy, and we consider the Timothy corridor to be from where 441 turns into Timothy Road and then all the way up to Atlanta Highway. So for Timothy Forward, we support Athens-Clarke County goals of building community, enhancing safety, increasing transportation options, promoting health and fitness, and reducing car dependence. Now, where Alan and I live and where Alex Sams live, it's very hard to walk out of your neighborhood. In fact, from my neighborhood, it is impossible unless you want to become roadkill. The Timothy Road is a 2-lane road. Its posted speed limit is 35 miles an hour. On either side, you have a nice big ditch and there's no shoulder. So basically, if somebody's coming at you a little too fast, you got 2 choices. Go to the ditch or get hit. So we would like to start by next slide, please. Just giving you a little overview here. So this is my little artistic rendering of Athens-Clarke County. It's not very great, but that oval you see, that's a loop. And this green triangle is the area where we are looking at asking for funding, plus the white triangle above it, and then a connection from the 441 Macon High to Millage Avenue. Now, so we're presenting 3 projects to you this evening for the price of 1. We have project 68, 69, and 70. Okay. So we're going to connect the southwest corner of Athens-Clarke County with multi-use paths and intersection safety improvements. Next slide. And I just wanted to briefly share the rubric that is in the application package for the stated goals that Mayor and Commission put forward in their strategic plan for sustainable transportation. So we have all 3 projects, 68, 69, and 70. Then the goal areas, 1, 5, 6, various sections, and our projects meet all of those criteria. Next slide. Okay, so we're going to drill down a little bit here. So the order is a little strange, and I'm sorry about that, but we'll start with number 1. That's project 69, Atlanta Highway, where Timothy Road and Mitchell Bridge intersect. And are all of you familiar with that intersection?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's a thing of beauty. Okay, section number 2. Okay, so that's from Atlanta Highway to Epsbridge Parkway. Now, this is an area that has sidewalk on either side of the road. There is an elementary school, Timothy Road Elementary School there. And then when we get to number 3, Epsbridge Parkway, that intersection has a church, and it's a dangerous intersection. There are frequent accidents there. We'll get to a little graphic on that. And then when you cross down to section 4, okay, that's the area where the double sidewalk becomes discontinuous and then stops altogether at Skyline Parkway. Now you see this little brown bit there. That's the area that's funded by the last TSPLOST. So we're going to be getting a 10-foot shared use path, multi-use path from Skyline Parkway down to the Timothy intersection where Timothy Road kind of turns left and you can run into Macon Highway. And another piece of that would continue on from that corner down to Rhodes Drive where the bus stop is, but it's kind of beyond the scope of our presentation this evening. Okay, then number 5 is a multi-use path that we would like to see from that Macon Highway, Timothy Road intersection to Millage Avenue. Now that would create a wonderful connection for that side of the Middle Oconee River, which really has no recreation facilities. You know, some of us don't even have a sidewalk. And would allow us to have different ways to get around town. I mean, I love riding my bike, but I basically don't do it because I can't go anywhere out of my neighborhood. And I love walking. So I can walk around my little cul-de-sacs and that gets boring. There are lots of single-family homes along there too, and they basically have, it's just their house. There's no community, nothing. So we have project 69, 68, 70. Next slide. Okay, so project 68 is the one we'll look at first. So Skyline Parkway. This is where that multi-use path is going to end. And it's going to go all the way up to Epsbridge. We want to have a continuation from Skyline Parkway across Epsbridge Parkway. And so this is about 1.5 miles, I believe. Okay, the next slide. The next piece of this is to improve this intersection here, this terrible intersection. And it's not a GDOT road, according to Stephen Bailey. It could possibly be redone as a roundabout, which would be fantastic. Could do, there are lots of different ways that we could do this improvement. We could do kind of basic geometric improvements. We could update the signal. Well, roundabout. Okay, next slide. And this is a slide showing just the number of accidents, crashes that have happened in the last 10 years. So there have been a total of 377 crashes at this intersection. That's an average of 38 per year. And there have been 2 fatalities at this location. Okay, next slide. All right, so when we got our application feedback from Transportation Public Works, they gave us a price tag of $13,267,000 plus the operating cost of $89,000. And I was a little unclear about whether the intersection options were an addition or included in. So Transportation and Public Works actually wanted us to present the intersection as a separate project from the multi-use path. And I made the executive decision to just kind of put it all together as one because, first of all, I didn't want to overwhelm the committee with a whole bunch of presentations. It can be very confusing. And also because these things really do fit together. And finally, you're going to be asking us to give you an alternate project anyway. So this is just, these are areas where we can kind of slice and dice to come up with something that you could possibly recommend funding for, because I know there's not that much money out there. And our price tag, like everyone else's, is very high. Okay, next slide. So the next piece we come to is from.
Ma'am?
Yes.
Excuse me. Are we gonna have a 5-minute question?
Yeah, we'll definitely,
We're
Project?
three for one.
we'll make sure we'll get them all in. Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing 3 projects at one time.
Yeah, that's kind of confusing to me.
Sorry.
I'd like to have questions after each project, but.
Okay, well, we can. Okay. Timothy Road, where Chestnut Grove Baptist Church is, all the way across the intersection. And why across the intersection? Because that intersection is a place where lots of people try to cross. I see them every day. And it's also a place of crashes. I actually saw a man on the ground next to his truck today as I was driving through that intersection. And it was not a good situation. So we want to take one of these sidewalks along here and convert it to a shared use path. And the reason for that is so that when people are riding their bicycles, they are not going to have to at any point get into the traffic, because getting into the traffic on your bicycle is very dangerous. So by completing the shared use path from where we've currently got funding up to Uxbridge Parkway, got people off Timothy Road and they're in safety, then you're not allowed to ride on the sidewalk unless you're a child. So we would have people merging their bicycles into the traffic on Timothy Road. So we propose to replace that, one of those sidewalks with the shared use path. And we want to go across because there's that public shopping center on the other side. And there's a bank there, the Wells Fargo Bank. So there's a lot happening that, we can't get to very safely unless we get in our cars. And even then it's not so safe. Okay, next slide. So again, Transportation Public Works said that they thought we really should put this out there as a separate project. The last TSPLOST some folks from Mitchell Bridge Road had put in a proposal to do a complete redesign in the intersection that would have involved purchasing this property, which was on the market, but that didn't happen. So that was sold and now it's a gas station. So there could be some redesign and realignment done here that could really enhance the safety. And there are lots of things that could be done so that people trying to cross the street, whether they're walking or on bicycles, will have a better time of it. You know, it's probably too late to get the roundabout, but you know, a girl can dream, right? Okay, next slide. All right, and so this is another one of these crash data maps, and this is, again, 10 years, 437 crashes, 44 annual average. Most of them are intersection related, so it's a bad intersection on the best of days. Next slide. All right, so we're getting to the Timothy Road, Atlanta Highway costing, and that one is $14,238,000. Okay. Now, I think what I understood staff to say is that 13 million of that would be to extend that multi-use path from Epps Bridge up to Atlanta Highway. Now with if we were going to do a complete redesign of the intersection, it would be another $15 million. But I don't know that we have that kind of money available at this point. So, all right, next slide. All right, so the last one we're looking at here is Project 70, which is from Timothy Road. It ends up at Macon Highway and connects up to Village Drive. Right now, it's not walkable, it's not bikeable, and you know, for people who want to get over to that part of town from where we are, you have to get in the car and drive. So the project cost for this multi-use path would be $10 million. So we can look at the next slide. And the bridge replacement, because there is a bridge that would have to be redone over Middle County, would really depend on what GDOT's plans are, you know, when they're ready to look at that bridge and what their funding cycle. Okay. So here we go. Timothy Forward and TSPLOST. Okay. Alan and I have both been involved in alternate transportation planning for quite a while now. We both participated in the TSPLOST 2018 for Atlanta Highway, the corridor group. And during that time, there was a survey of the Atlanta Highway corridor users, you know, people out in the whole community. And there was tremendous support for putting some connections on Mitchell Bridge and Timothy Road because of all these neighborhoods that access these areas, but really can't get there because they have to get, you know, you have to get in your car and drive. In 2023, Alan and I were both on the TSPLOST committee. And Timothy Forward put a kind of a major project similar to what I've described in my briefer up. And it was, again, we were told, you know, you got to scale it back. So we were able to get a project kind of approved in the TSPLOST process that then got further adapted by mayor and commission. And so where we ended up was with the shared use path that is now going to be going in from Skyline Parkway down to where 441 intersects with Timothy Road. There is currently $8 million spent or encumbered of TSPLOST funds. So that's important to note because the county has already invested in this area. Timothy Forward is interested in improving the equitability of capital improvements throughout the county. It says District 10, it's really District 7. We used to be District 10. We don't have any parks or other amenities over there and really no way to access them other than to get in the car and drive. Epps Parkway does have some bike lanes, but again, you know, they're not accessible to those of us who are stuck in our little cul-de-sacs and individual street-facing properties. And then linking the Timothy and Mitchell Bridge corridors with Atlanta Highway and Millage Avenue would go a long way towards creating the vision of the late Commissioner Jerry Neesmith, thank you, and Mike Hamby. They got together and they had this vision for doing a walkable loop around Athens-Clarke. So these, you know, we're thinking systematically, we're thinking long-term. We want to try to build all of this infrastructure, but we know we can't do it in one, you know, project. Just can't be done. So next slide, please. So we kind of came up with a little priorities list. Oh, it looks like it got a little offset, and I'm sorry about that. I'm not a graphic artist, so things don't cooperate with me sometimes. Okay, so priority number 1 would be project 69, the multi-use path. Okay, not the intersection, multi-use path. Priority number 2 would be project 68, which is again, replace the sidewalk with multi-use path, not the intersection. Then project 68, Epps Bridge intersection redesign. That would be our 3rd priority. Okay, so multi-use path, multi-use path. Epps Bridge intersection. The 4th priority would be the Atlanta Highway intersection. That's a GDOT project. And then the 5th priority would be to build that multi-use path from Timothy Road, Macon Highway. I'm Macon Highway to Millage Avenue. So that's where we're at. We thank you so much, TSPLOST Committee, for your time and your attention. And we'll take questions. Yes, ma'am.
So if you could go back 1 slide to that, your map, bravo, like that. So the brown part is where we already have a SPLOST project that's creating a multi.
The brown part, yes. This
Right.
is the funded
Yes.
it right here.
So then the rest of that green line, are there sidewalks along there? Or are there
Okay.
still section without sidewalks?
Up here,
There's
there are sidewalks on either side.
Right.
And here, there are sidewalks on this side and this side, but they're not continuous. And there's.
So there's intermittent sidewalks.
Yeah.
So that section, I see. So that section would definitely, I was just curious the difference between the multi-use path versus a sidewalk.
Right.
Because at least if that network is joined together to the other sidewalks,
Right.
at least it provides something.
Right, it's something. So what happens now is that people ride their bicycles on the sidewalk,
Right.
which it's not legal unless you're a child. Okay. Yes, sir.
So if you could go back on project 68, I think it was maybe the 4th slide. Where you showed, the next one after that, maybe, yeah, that one there. Okay, so I live on Timothy Road
Okay.
and I live up there and around the intersection of Epps Bridge and Timothy, which in those condominiums. On the front side of our condominiums, there are brand new sidewalks. They just put them in this year.
Okay, so now I'm trying to envision where this is. Is this south of Epps Bridge?
You know where Ruthwood is?
Ruthwood, yes, yes,
Okay, well,
yes.
you're going toward Epps Bridge and you start hitting our property there, Timothy Terraces.
Okay,
And all those sidewalks from about halfway from Timothy up to that little jog road that goes into the office complex is all new sidewalks.
right. That's not what we're proposing
Okay,
to.
but it's 5 foot, right?
Correct,
It is, okay, so
And it's on the opposite side of the street,
it's on
the new project.
right.
Yeah, so that's my next question. So the sidewalks that are gonna be going on Timothy, the 10 foot, are they gonna be on the other side of Timothy?
They're gonna be on the opposite side from Ruthwood.
on the Oconee County side of it.
Yes, I guess you could say,
So, and that's gonna run from the Epps all the way up to Skyline.
correct.
All right, now, right around St. George and Skyline, there's a crosswalk where you hit the button and people are supposed to stop for walkers. Okay, are you proposing any more of those on Timothy other than just that one?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't have a yes or no answer for you because a lot of what will happen, assuming that we get some funding for design, is that staff will assess the whole safety issue for people traversing.
You remember about a year and a half ago, we had that information meeting at the Unitarian Church?
Yes,
They had all the maps all laid out.
yes.
That showed 3 different crosswalks. So that's off the table now, or?
We don't have any crosswalk in our proposal.
Okay,
They could be recommended by staff.
okay.
And I can't really tell you how that's going to shake out. But I mean, anywhere it's appropriate and necessary for people to have a safe crossing, that's what they're going to recommend. But we don't have it in our proposal. Yes, ma'am.
Could you go to the second to last slide? Yeah, looking at the map, I was curious, you have the Macon Highway multi-use path as your lowest priority. And I was curious about that since I know at the moment Timothy Road, sorry, is pretty much completely disconnected from like the bike network of mainland Athens, I guess.
Yes.
And like the rest of Athens, there's Millage Extension, right, connects you up, and then there's bike paths all around, way around through Athens. So it seems like 5 would make the most sense to connect the existing TSPLOST project to the main part of Athens versus I know 1 is also very important. Though I also know that there's that like Tanglebrook neighborhood that you can kind of route through to get to Epps on a bike or walking. I don't know if that's.
It's not really feasible.
Yeah, but just curious as to why specifically project 5 or the 5th priority is the lowest priority.
That's a good question. And the reason is because Alan and I are really representing the neighborhoods along Timothy Road. Okay, and that is a connection that will be really valuable. And we see it as something that we really want us to have built, but it isn't the number 1 priority. We're trying to connect this bit so that people who are down here can get to businesses and neighborhoods over here. Like Alan was very close to me, but I have to get in my car and drive if I want to go to his house.
There is also the new Glenview neighborhood, so from where the trail ends there, you can go through Rhodes Drive, Glenview, and not be on the Timothy Hill at all.
Right.
So
Yep.
there is an alternate way through.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I have a comment and a question. So personally, I can only speak for myself. I would encourage alternate proposals that do split apart the intersections from the multi-use pathways. I think the intersections tend to be more focused on safety, looking at the crash data that you provided. And so as we're prioritizing projects, I would encourage those alternatives, but I can only speak for myself. And then for my question, for folks that are pedestrians, so not people that bike, for folks who are pedestrians, oftentimes the reason they get in cars isn't just because there's not, an adequate multi-use path. It's because the distances are too great. Most people are not willing to walk, 3 miles round trip to go get groceries if they have a car. That's not the case for everybody, but for folks that do have a car, most people are not willing to walk that far. And so in your opinion, would you say that like this Timothy Road area is dense enough to substantiate, these multi-use paths? Are there enough places along these 1.5 mile stretches that you're suggesting to
the part
practically meet the needs of?
Yeah, the part of Timothy Road where Alan and I live, there's very little bicycle traffic because it's too dangerous. You're basically going to get plowed down if you try to ride your bike. Now, from Epps Parkway up past the school to Atlanta Highway, yes, there are 5-foot sidewalks on either side. I personally, and I'm a little old lady, I would love to be able to get on my bicycle and go up to Publix. Because I hate having to get in and out of the car. It just drives me nuts. I I know there are a lot of people who do ride bicycles. I see them on this segment right here. I mean, there's the bike lanes on Epps Bridge. And I do see people riding bicycles and they're on the sidewalks because we're safe for them to go. All right, and next door we have.
I guess I have a question for staff and for the Macon Highway. There's a staff comment in here talking about it getting a pedestrian only bridge across the river. And her presentation said something about, I'm reading. The budget values are based on standalone bridge structure over GDOT projects. She said about.
Related to the one that was removed? Yeah, I don't know if I'll look at it.
Okay,
Might ask
yeah.
her or not.
I don't-
Since that's not 41 anymore, the bypass is, GDOT ain't gonna replace that bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, they still, but they may still own it, but that's gonna be a low priority for them.
The one on Macon Highway?
Macon Highway Bridge, and what he's saying was they were talking about a standalone pedestrian bridge, which I think would be make a whole lot more sense. Are you done? Question about, roundabouts, and you start talking about Epps Bridge Parkway and Timothy Road. Tremendous amount of cars, tremendous amount of traffic. Do you think that that is safer for pedestrians and bicyclists to have cars that never stop?
Oh, you mean in a roundabout construction? If it's correctly designed, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I'm in a car.
Yes.
And nobody ever stops. Everybody's roundabouting and right turning, going 3/4 of the way around. And you think that's safer than stopping all the traffic, stopping all the cars, and then a bicycle?
Yes,
goes across?
and the reason for that is.
We're gonna agree to disagree.
Okay, well, and that's fine. But, you know, everybody has the right to.
I would love to hear an explanation for why it's safer.
Sorry?
I would love to hear why for a roundabout, why it's safer.
So, but when a roundabout is correctly designed, especially for multiple modes of transportation, you have, first of all, the traffic coming in, the particular traffic is going to be slowed down. And the slower the traffic, the lower the chance that somebody is going to die in a crash. So that's number one. Number two is that if you figure out how people are going to walk or bike around the roundabout, then you build it in. You build in where the people are going to be and how they're going to navigate the roundabout. I grew up in DC and I used to walk around DuPont Circle and, you know, that was a crazy intersection, but people cross all the time and, you know, it works.
Most roundabouts do have, in Athens, at least have yield signs.
Yeah.
And with roundabouts, pedestrians or bicyclists crossing only have to focus on crossing one road at a time typically.
Right.
If you think about crossing a one-way road, it's pretty easy to tell if someone's coming. But when there's two ways, sometimes it can be a little bit more.
And, you know, Epps Bridge Parkway, I mean, it's really a dangerous intersection. It's one of the more dangerous intersections in the county. And it will get some love sooner rather than later, but why not start the fire, I say. All right.
I will throw in real quick that the county has already spent $2 million to plan this entire multi-use path from one end of Timothy to the other. It's already been spent. It's already been designed. So not building it is kind of wasting $2 million.
So, yeah. Anybody else?
More?
Oh, yes.
Sorry, in your quotes, it has design fees included in there. I know that's just a staff requirement, but is it possible to not have to include design fees? Since design has already been done.
Well, you know,
Depends on how far the design went.
I mean, I think some of the design, well, the design, a lot of it has been devoted down here. Okay, so that's where the major part of it. Yes, they did take a look at the whole corridor.
We've got schematics of the whole corridor.
Yeah. Yes,
can you provide some context to maybe why the design was completed, but then construction, was there a budget shortfall, or what prompted them to design the entire pathway, but then not?
Well, the funding is really kind of complicated. You get funding in cycles, and you get a certain amount of money with which you can do a limited amount of work. Then, if you could take $2 million and do the whole project, that'd be great, but you can't. And the cost estimate today is going to be much lower than what it's really going to cost.
And
heavy equipment gets out there.
The $2 million came out of a previous loss for the 6.7 million that was used to do the little yellow or brown or whatever color section of different buckets.
I hope we have not taken up too much of your time.
No, your timing was very good.
We appreciate you and appreciate you letting us do 3 at once rather than.
Sure.
No.
Glad to help.
Make it
If
more.
you have questions, we do have a mechanism tool to get them to you, so
Yep.
look for those as well.
And we are going to be putting together an alternative proposal and getting staff to kind of help us with that. So we get a, much more accurate kind of estimate for the broken up pieces.
Okay, perfect. Sounds great.
All right.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. So we'll go ahead, as I mentioned, Keith Sanders is here. He can go over a little bit of how the budgeting works from the county's view when they see these projects. And so if you got any questions, we'll be able to kind of sort through that. If you remember last meeting, I think it was, I went over a little bit of that with you, but it did seem like even more detail would be better suited as we're coming into these last ones. And so we know how to read and understand why they're done in that way. So Keith, if you're ready, I'll hand it over to you.
I don't have a formal presentation. I'm really here to answer questions. I do want to say one thing that to answer questions I've heard a couple of times is there's not a set minimum price for projects. There's no set construction minimum. I heard a question once about why was a simple crosswalk painting, several $100,000. Well, that was the price that was submitted by the folks doing that particular project. And the way we take the projects that are submitted and the way they're written and try to put the best concept estimate to them that we can based on what we have. So that one, just using it as an example, not trying to throw that one under the bus, unintended that y'all heard tonight, but it provides a good example of how to explain the budget based on what was submitted. That proposal, when you read it, says it wants pedestrian, bicycle improvements, it wants utility relocation, pedestrian lighting, and crosswalk. So that's what was written. And the estimate that was submitted was $200,000 for that intersection. If you look at the Google Maps for those, it probably needs some sidewalk improvements. What's there, there's some sidewalk there. It's been there a while. It certainly needs some ADA improvement in the crosswalks, needs some painting. There is a street light there today at that intersection, but there's not what we call pedestrian lighting, which is those lower lights like you see downtown, or you might see along the Hickory or Broad Street around the multimodal facility, and those are quite expensive. So the submitted price for $200,000 seemed appropriate for what they were describing. So we have to take, not seeing their presentation, not knowing exactly what is done there, but we know the conditions and we kind of have an idea of what kinds of costs. So we try to put that concept level estimate to it. 200 construction, you are going to have some design. It does get to a point where every project has multiple submissions that go to merit commission. It costs money to develop those submissions through the design engineers, through survey. So every project does have some cost with it, almost no matter what. and then the complexity of what that particular intersection is. So that's one, I just wanted to sort of throw that out there is how we do the concept level. You asked just a minute ago about that bridge. We did include it in the cost. We did the estimate of the pedestrian bridge because we know that you guys not going to fix that bridge anytime soon. And for that to be a complete project. And that's the other part is we take what's written and try to give you, the committee, what we think it's going to cost to make it a complete project. To make that a complete project from end to end is going to need a pedestrian bridge to get across the river because the bridge there now would not be, is not wide enough for like pedestrian traffic. And you could expand it. The bridge needs to be replaced, and we just think it would be better if you did a pedestrian. So that was added to that project. We tried to make some notes so that y'all would see it.
Before we get to the next question, so just to add a little bit of context here, so we asked Keith because of his experience and knowledge, and I felt like he'd be a great resource for you all to get you more comfortable and informed with the submissions that you're looking at. And when we talk about technical review, it wasn't just Keith putting this together, right? When we received this, there are a lot of different people that look at this, provide commentary, folks that are professionals that are in this business every day. And, you know, they know what the market conditions are like. They know Athens-Clarke County, and kind of just help to put some of that together, taking the submission, taking professional feedback, and providing us with something that is useful. So I just wanted to give that little bit of context and think about this. We did technical review on 71 different submissions. This was a tremendous effort, even if it was the only thing we had to do. You know, it's just a tremendous effort, and I just feel fortunate and putting all that together for us. But I know if I'm hearing the committee, I know you had a specific question, but I've heard, if I could, Carrie, I think you had some questions about specifically property acquisition on the previous ones.
Yes.
And William, I think you've expressed some concerns as well, just seeing the difference between what folks are asking for and what they think it costs versus what we're seeing in the project submissions post-review. Right about that.
Yeah, I just had one. Yeah, I just had, just to allude to what you're trying to say. Why would you put a property acquisition number in there if there's really not going to be any property acquisition?
Because we don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah, like the one, I think you asked the question about the one at Racetrack and the bridge, or somebody asked that about.
Yeah, 500,000, yeah.
Because where they showed the bridge in their presentation probably is not going to be allowed to go there. And we kind of know that because you're not going to be able to put foundations. There's not a median there in the middle. It would be a probably 300 to 400 foot bridge, clear span. And so the bridge that was originally proposed as part of the long-term plans there was to put something more parallel to the loop road. And that is it's still Tweedle, maybe they're saying it wrong, but that private property with the racetrack it's on it.
Tweedle.
Sorry, Tweedle. And no offense intended to anybody there, but it's probably going to require some more property acquisition to do that kind of bridge. So that's why that one is particular on there. Well, I was just thinking.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Well, I think my question was related to that, in that helping me put the context into what we're looking at, because I think you might have somebody who is a land engineer who designed something, but more than likely we have folks who just live on a certain corridor and they want this project done. And so you can go into PowerPoint, you can create a map and you can present it, and relying on you all and the experts in your office to come up with a best case scenario for what this might cost. And maybe not everything on that list would end up being part of that project, but it's good to see that full list so that we can expect it in case it comes up, right? So yeah, I mean, some of the things, I think that the bridges, I think, is a really interesting example of, like, it's easy for us to sit there and be like, oh yeah, bridge. But in reality, could you actually build a bridge right there, get the right slope, make it an ADA accessible, all that stuff? Probably not. So yeah, it's an idea, it's a concept, and we still have to fund it. So we have to expect the unexpected.
On that specific one, I think I would add, yes, thank you for those comments. You're right on all those. You'll see some notes in the submission from staff that identifies that's a GDOT road right there. And, you know, there's some challenges with committing ourselves to a project on territory that we don't necessarily have full control of. It's just a consideration. What we try to keep in mind is, you know, and for you guys as well, think about 5, 6 years down the road when we're actually getting ready to put this thing together and take action. And, you know, standing in front of elected officials and, you know, they kind of depend on us at this point right here to identify some of these question marks and some of these things that we just need to anticipate. Because if we don't anticipate it, if we don't include in there, you know, there's probably going to be some facility relocation. We don't know, probably. And we need to be ready for that. You know, there's probably going to be some property acquisition. You know, we need to be, they depend on us to be ready for that now and put that in the plan originally, instead of having to do it on the backside and go ask for more money that they don't have. So I think I would add that comment to really all of the budget lines in there is it's part of financial plan. That's what they ask us to do.
And the individual, let me just add that real quick before we get to the next question. The individual line items on your estimate in the packages, that's not what goes in the referendum. The total dollar value is what goes in the referendum. So you're right. If there was 500 in land acquisition and great, if we didn't need it, that would move into construction. And then if a project finishes and there's money left over, then that money can be used on another project. It's still part of the referendum. Once the project's finished, it could be moved and used for another project that might come in over budget. So it's not the line items that go in there.
I think you asked that question before. What happens to it if we don't need that money? Well, it goes to other parts of the project or another project.
I had several questions, so what time are we trying to get out of here?
We got a man in the room, so we're going.
Okay, because I may want to go for Isabel because she's thorough too. You answered one of the questions. If there's money left over, where does it go? It goes back into that, but whatever other projects that were expected to be funded, what that money would go toward, correct?
Correct. Any project that comes in, that finishes with money left over, excess funds, could go to another project within the referendum. And then if the whole referendum was finished and all the scopes of work were done, then there's an avenue, opportunity to use that money to reduce property tax or pay down debt if there was any, but that rarely ever happens. It's not likely to happen because you always still have more roads to pay, but any individual project left over could go to another project.
Okay, and also explain to me the process, because I've heard several people who present and say, look, I put in 100,000 and it came back 3 times that much.
Mm-hmm.
So if I came up with a project, tell me these are the bad parts, or this needs to be looked at, or you just doctor it up and hand it back to me.
When we do our technical review, we give it back to them with the revised cost for the scope that they presented. If they want to ask questions, they can, and, you know, we can make adjustments if they want to. If I misunderstood something, I don't rewrite their scopes and I don't rewrite their justifications because that's their project. I did probably put some editorials in there to try to explain the pricing in some of them. And I did try to correct some of the executive summaries were more sales pitches than descriptions of the project. And I thought y'all deserved to get a description in that executive summary because I know a lot of people use those as the brief. But I did not give them all the details of how we got to each individual number.
Okay, but if they ask for it, you will.
Sure.
Okay, then also I'm looking at a project where they're talking about only building sidewalks, and I'm looking at a $3 million project.
And testing is $54,000. What type? And then I also saw testing on the one, the gentleman just $180,000 testing. I think on the bus, no, that's not that one, but it was $100,000 to test for busing. And this project was basically talking about buying buses and.
Transit project.
Yeah.
But he also had in there, facility, maintenance facilities and even bus stop improvements of, you know, shelters, sidewalks. We do take concrete testing, we'll take soils testing. And they do add up. For you got $3 million worth of construction work, you're gonna have several percentage points of just testing on it for the either soils or concrete, or have an inspector out there to check reinforcing steel, layout, this work. Well, maybe not layout, but the different kinds of construction materials.
Now, is the work for a lot of these line items, are they bidded out, or you have a company, one or two companies that you pretty much do business with only, or how does that work?
No, I mean, the estimates that you have there are strictly conceptual level estimates. If a project goes for implementation, it depends on the individual line item, have the size of the project. Most of the design, we have about 6 what we call on-call design engineers that we spread the work around between them. We do qualification packages and design proposals from them. We'll get multiple prices from those on-calls. Those are people we've already qualifications. That's for design. Most all of the construction we do is competitively bid, and we take low bid. Testing, again, we have 4 or 5 firms that we use on a regular basis that we have checked the qualifications on. And then we'll get a price from a couple of them when the project comes up and go with whichever one's already met the qualifications and comes in priced real well.
Now, those folks didn't do these estimates.
Yes.
That he's referring to active projects that we have going on right now, what we know market rates are.
Okay.
Yeah, these numbers that you have are our best estimates. And it's, you know, it's not just some of it's based on projects that we have right now that are very similar. Some of it is based on stuff we've done over the years that might be similar, or just our knowledge of the industry of what's going on.
The bids are put out and.
Absolutely.
You do your due.
Absolutely.
Now, I know public art, you have nothing to do with that, but you probably will hear me before the commissioners, because you have someone that's concerned about their kid walking in high grass and might get snake bitten. And then we want to put get a Black Power symbol painted in the middle of the sidewalk. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Is that actually a thing? Like, is that actually a thing that happened?
I said Black Power, but I didn't make it personal.
I just like to use real examples.
Well, I whisper to you.
He's talking about the rainbow crosswalk. Talking about the rainbow crosswalk.
Correct.
But art it is by ordinance.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I have to.
That, right.
About that, because
we don't include, and if I missed it in the transit, there's possible I missed it. Generally, the cost of the buses, equipment purchases don't get art associated with it. So I might have missed that in his.
Well, pretty much all of them have.
Because that's why we had the separate line item for capital equipment, because we don't calculate the art based on it. It's just the construction number.
Right.
I think he's just complaining about the fact that art is even included on the line, but that's an ordinance.
Some of them, you know, it's just like, it's on all of them. That's what I was saying, because there was one that they wanted to pave roads. And I looked at the cost and what we can build, what we can actually get. That makes me kind of frown on that particular one. So I have an idea that I go before the commissioners, and they may laugh at me, but at least I will have said it.
Sure. Well,
some of the art that I've been told is like, you know, we've got some creative bus stops. You know, half a bus or something, or some kind of a mosaic art that's been with metal or something, and
that's how I was explaining some of this art is put into budgets or put into projects.
That's some of them, you know, we've got a variety, that's the bus stops are that way. For Clayton Street, the art budget was on the rainbow crosswalks.
One
For
deal to my heart is, the, one on Hot Corner. I know that cost. So I'm saying if I had to make a choice of, I'm not gonna get into that. We'll talk about that personally and I'll talk with the commissioners. Because I'm a big fan of art myself. I would hate to have to, deny a project, vote against it because we're looking at, I think it's art 1%. So I can't see myself voting for something where we have $500,000 worth of art. Because the project would be, you know, would not, be funded because of that. And since we're dealing with limited funds, and I yield to you now, young lady, because I don't want to take up all of it. Well, wait. I'm finished right now. I don't want to take up all the time, but you may see me in your office so I just want to understand. And thank you again for all the hard work you do. And you answered quite a few questions.
Glad I could do it.
For me.
On public art, I know like what Alex was saying in the past of like public art is in there by ordinance and like I think it's fair to be like, yeah, like maybe we shouldn't do that with like when we could be building more bus stops with that money or we could be building more projects with that money or whatever. But unfortunately, no matter how we allocate it, no matter which projects we choose, we're always gonna have to do 1% of construction to public art. So it doesn't really matter in terms of which projects we choose. It's just a commissioner ordinance that they have decided that we have to do public art. So that's just going to be a commissioner issue and not something that we can really affect in terms of our decision.
That's what I said. That was explained last week that when that ordinance went in, there was a different set of commissioners and a different mayor. And I love art, don't get me wrong. I like a lot of the beautiful arts around. I know a couple of the artists. And I would gladly tell one of them, I love that statue. I know you have a reputation, but could you charge a little less? But if he charged less, that money is still gonna be charged because of the ordinance. It's still gonna be taken out. So I will go to the commissioner. So they'll have a sneak preview of what I'm going to say. I'm not saying change the ordinance, but look at the project. Let that be debatable or whether it can go in that project. Now, getting $80,000 from a project that really is going to change people's lives, I mean, dramatically, and not be able to do it because there's not enough money or potential denied.
So I'm going to jump in at this moment because we are not the decision makers on art being in or not. And
Well, I was just responding to her.
yeah, no, but
Because I'm
so we
going to
need
the
to,
commission.
we need to nip that. Will you, that's your cue. We do have information on art. I'm gonna let Liz pass it out.
Wait, can I literally just.
You can still keep talking and then we're gonna go to Jeb, but we do have information we'll talk about before the meeting's over.
Sure,
So
appreciate it.
yeah, you go ahead as well and then Jeb, you got it.
I only had one question for you, actually. But my question was with what you were saying earlier about the Oconee Street, or not the Oconee Street, the Lexington Bridge for the Firefly Trail. You were talking about how that would necessitate some land acquisition. Right, and you had mentioned in its original proposal that it wasn't. I was trying to better understand. You said it's in its original proposal, it wasn't viable, but that it might have to be relocated. So I was asking about that in terms of where you were saying that it needed to be relocated or redesigned to. And then second of all, with that crossing, looking at it just on Q Public, in terms of all of the potential area, no matter how big or how wide the bridge is, it looks like it only really has the possibility of crossing parcels that are owned by either Athens-Clarke County or GDOT. So is some of that land acquisition you're talking about in regards to deals with the GDOT? Or are you referring to some other parcel that's, because I don't see any other parcels in that area other than CC Dub and GDOT, but I was wondering.
Well, you've got the racetrack property that is not either one. I mean, that's private property that it might need some,
Some other side.
but that you got a land bridge somewhere. And so that would be where we think GDOT would probably allow it to go, would be more parallel to the loop, the bridge for the loop that goes over Lexington, which would be not at that intersection. It would be down the other end of the park and ride. That's where it was. At one point, there was a pedestrian bridge in the long-term plans, but there was a park and ride on where it is today. And there was also a park and ride planned where the racetrack is at one point. And then whatever reasons, the park and ride where the racetrack is did not go through. And so, of course, the bridge wasn't there because there was going to be a bridge connected to the parking. I don't know what happened to that plan. That was a GDOT thing, and that was years ago. I just know that was probably where it was. There's not a lot of room between the on-ramp and the greenway to get the bridge and the ramp down from a bridge to the greenway where it is. So it might impact that Waffle House property if it can go at that intersection. Or the landing zone for it on the other side of the road is that little triangle piece is pretty small. And that is GDOT owned currently, but I don't know that it's going to be big enough to do the bridge landing foundations and the ramp that would be required, because you got to get at least 15 foot of clearance over Lexington, and then you got your structure. So you're gonna have to ramp up pretty good on the Greenway side, maybe not quite as much on the Firefly. So we put it in there as a possibility. Land right now, I know there's some rips in the roof. Land is
You ain't gonna buy much for $500,000.
pretty darn high right now, and it seems unreasonable, but
Especially if they know we need it.
yeah, and $1 million an acre for right of way stuff in Broad and Millets and in that area has not been uncommon in some projects lately. So it's and it doesn't take much to eat up a half acre ever. And maybe we're off. Maybe you get no land, and we would move that into construction. We're trying to give you the best estimate we can.
I do the same thing sometimes. I just use my eye, look at Key Public and say, oh, yeah, that works. And then, but then,
The best analogy I can give.
16 miles an hour. They know where they have it.
The best analogy I can get is a dozen eggs shouldn't cost $6.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a big difference, but that's sort of the reality we're in right now.
So it was, the original proposal was it was closer to the bridge, the pedestrian bridge was gonna be closer to the overpass. Park line. So this proposal is.
Right, which I don't know if GDOT would allow. We have a lot of reservations that GDOT would allow. And we can't do it without their permission. It's just not a good place to land it. The ends of the bridge and the ramp to get up to it, from it.
But worst case, like you're saying, it seems like it's like crossing the bridge on the racetrack side to get to the park and ride, and then in their proposal, they had another bridge crossing from the park and ride over to the greenway. So I guess if that was the case, if you're coming from the east part of the Firefly Trail and you come down on by the racetrack, you don't really have to go up or down a bridge or anything, because it's generally level with the ground. You go by the racetrack, cross over to park and ride, cross over to the greenway, and then just take a ramp down. So it doesn't seem like it's that crazy or out of the way.
It's not crazy. You just got to get the clearance. You got to get enough clearance, and you also have transmission power lines that you have to get under. So you've got to thread that needle, and the loop does it. I mean, in the loop, you don't have as much clearance on the pedestrian bridge as you do the loop bridge. So it's possible. It can be done. You've just got, there's things you have to work around. There's communication lines that have to be relocated. So it's not undoable. We don't think, as long as everybody participates.
It's just not gonna cost as little as they hoped it would, the original submit. So tried to adjust the price.
I know you heard some prices on other bridges in other locations up there. Of course, I haven't looked at those.
That was built a long time ago.
We don't know when, and it could have been just constructed.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm like,
Before the, hang on, Jim's been
Sorry.
super good.
My question was, throughout the process, we've had some things that questions come up, whether is this included in the mayor and commission's deal, specifically paving of dirt roads? We had a lot of requests or, several requests for different dirt roads. And then we see in the mayor and commission, are those dirt roads that someone came and asked to pave, are those in that?
In designated funds?
Yes.
That's not my understanding of it. The pre-designated funds had pavement maintenance, which was a big line item, but that's to take care of the roads that are already paved.
Yep.
It's not to pave new roads.
I thought it said something about paving dirt roads. Did I misread?
Maybe I missed it, but that was not. the
I'll
way-
go back and look. I don't remember seeing original surfacing in the pre-designated maintenance.
Okay.
Again, think about the pre-designated categories. They were all kind of sustainment of what we already have. It wasn't improvement. It wasn't to bring it to the next level. Resurfacing, keeping everything.
And then the other
Let me finish it real quick though, because there's another part to answer to that same question. Even if it is that the pre-designated for pavement, if you've heard Transportation Public Works say, many times the money that was put in there for that is not enough to catch up all of the years of not paving everything that needed to be done. So people that have asked for the dirt roads to be paved, even if that big bucket of money might have said it had money for paving dirt roads, these people are asking for you to pave these specific dirt roads because they may or may not believe that if there was money in that bucket for paving dirt roads, their particular dirt roads would get paved. And they're submitting a project trying to ask you to pave their particular dirt road or their particular sidewalk or crosswalk or whatever, bus stop. And that was what Vic mentioned, that these people, when they're asking for a specific transit, they don't want to be part of a big bucket because then they may or may not get their improvement. And that's the rest of the answer to that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I still am having a problem with the mayor commission and $7 million for a transportation center at the mall when it's when it's specifically, I went to a mall meeting the other day and they specifically said it's in the tab. And I mean, I don't know whether it's a $14 million deal or a $7 million deal, but figures lie and liars figure, and that whole deal out there the numbers are starting to jump around big time.
The reason that they talked about putting 7 million in the pre-designated is that as part of that redevelopment deal, there is some schedules that they have to use it or lose it. That they have to build the mall transfer facility within a certain window of time once the other facilities are done. And so they didn't think there would be enough money accumulated in the TAD in the time frame necessary to build it before their time limit for building it for the property.
Whose time frame?
Well, it's part of the
developer or the developer's time frame or the
agreement between.
Or is there some grant money that we're going to lose?
No, there's a property deal between the developer and the county about how, because the developer turns over that property to the county for ownership.
I'll send you a link and a page number to the community benefits agreement that articulates the time frame and what's required in there. It'll describe that to you.
And so that money was put.
They could use that, but they could use that from one of their slush funds. I'll call it, for lack of a better term, one of their buckets of money that contingency funds or whatever, and then replenish that with TAD money, correct? I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just a little offended that they're taking it out of SPLOST money when it's already being funded by TAP.
I could probably get you in touch with the right person. That one's not my purview, and honestly, it's not the purview.
I get that, but you know, I mean,
But that was the reason, that was a stated reason was.
Okay.
Timeframe.
I'd like to see that in the operating agreement.
One quick question, I'll make sure it's quick. One presenter wanted, I think, 12 rows, 10, 12 paved from, never been paved before. I understand 2 of those roads cannot be paved. So, and I think he was a part of the staff. How did that not get addressed before he presented to us? You have to ask him.
Well,
The one that he's referring to is Beach Creek, where Dr. Odom donated the 46 acres in Beechwood between Westlake Drive and it's called Beach Creek. And Dr. Odom was the environmental, he founded the environmental school at the university. He owned all that property. He donated to the university and the university sold it. But when he donated it, it was deed restricted that it couldn't be paved.
Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know about that particular one, but there was one on paving dirt roads that some could not be done. And we factored that out of the cost and stated our summary of them. And those roads couldn't be paved because they were private drives. Now, I don't know about this particular one. I don't.
Well, that's the one.
Yeah. I'm not remembering that one in particular, that.
The level of review that we're able to do, the staffing that we have is it a public road? Is it not a public road? That sort of thing. What we weren't able to do is deed research.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother level.
Yeah,
And that's what he's talking about, something that would be found, at a point when we actually had to do deed research.
Start digging in the deed, right? If it was a public road, but deed restricted, I would have missed it then. There were several that was on the list, their list originally, that were private drives. And those we struck from their write-up and took the cost off.
But even in those, they can't list of which one they'll do first in order, could they?
I mean, they could list what they want, but that comes down to mayor and commission decision once the referendum is passed.
And typically, once we get around to actually drafting a project statement, it's listed in a way that allows that sort of flexibility. We can find that in the future. So may include roads such as X, Y, and Z, but could include others as well.
And it could be that some of the people enough of the people that live on that dirt road don't want it paved.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the particular case. And if they didn't want it paved, then it may not get paved. And that was why there's at least one section or two that weren't paved to begin with, because the property owners on both sides of the road didn't want it paved and weren't willing to sell or donate or give the land for the right way to do it. So there's a blank section on 2 of those. There's dirt in between 2 paved sections. And that's because that's what the property owners wanted. And believe it or not, in Fulton County, years ago when I was there, just quick, I mean, we had $20 million homes on a dirt road. And they pitched every loving fit. Somebody threatened to pave that road. They wanted their road dirt because they didn't want people coming down it.
Well, a few weeks ago, we had a presentation on the Middle Laconia River Greenway through the Beach Creek, Beach Haven place. And I wanted to know, I mean, this might not be a you question, but I guess for y'all, if we're able to, and it might be online and I couldn't find it, but I looked everywhere, or I looked for more. Do we have access to like the plans and proposal for what proposed in SPLOST for the Beach Haven Park proposal so that we can like see how they line up with any proposals that we see here in TSPLOST, if that makes sense?
Yeah, they're just starting the master planning process for that property. The user group is meeting and going through that master plan, but there hasn't been even a draft version created yet. So they're going through all of it. So you might see what was put on in a previous SPLOST program of what somebody wanted, but not.
The only kind of drawings that I've seen in Athens in motion.
Anything else? Last thing I'll say, and this is kind of over to William, I'm looking at one project and remember on the public art, when you do speak to your commissioners,
Well,
and you want to do, hang on, you want to do it with intelligence. It's 1% of the construction of it. So I'm looking at one of these here, and this is a pretty extreme to some that we see, but it's a $7.2 million project. But construction is only $1 million, so it's only getting 1% of the 1 million and not 1%. So when you do go talk to the commissioners, make sure you keep it up that line, and then they'll be able to feed right. They know you know what you're talking about.
And I appreciate that handout because you asked some questions and it was with some of the things I would have had.
And so this is a copy and paste from any code of the ordinance itself. So this isn't.
No. Well, thank you. Thank you for that.
I will say one other thing for the art, it has to go with the project. So it's not one of these things where funds from one project are accumulated and added to a fund from another project. Like if you have one that's $1,000 and another one that's 2,000, they don't get added together and put somewhere else. The art has to go be identifiable with the project.
I appreciate that because that wasn't information I got from my fellow members last week. So thank you for that.
You wouldn't know that. We were understanding it was going into a pool.
Nope.
So it does stay with
the
project.
Right. In the SPLOST 2011, there is a public art project that is just a bucket of money for public art, and that money can go anywhere. But when it's the 1% from the construction budget, it has to be something identifiable with the project. That's why you have a roundabout with art in the center, or you have the art on Clayton Street, or a sculpture at the park, or the bus stops. It has to be identifiable with the individual projects.
Do you notice a distinction though between the funding kind of method in section 5? So these different sections, there's different funding methods here. So
I did see that.
There might be a description of the top one, which is in the general capital budget versus SPLOST projects.
I was asking someone with relevance to that and about that earlier, and the thing that I got from it was that like for most all projects, it should stay with the project. But if it's like impossible for it to go with the project, like if it's road paving or, you know, improving the retro reflectivity of street signs or something like that, it then would go into a pool that can be allocated by the Athens Cultural Committee.
No.
That's what I got from it.
Whoever gave you that is.
So what happens to the
wrong.
money if it's road paving and it's impossible for
They don't always,
Upfront, the bids not appropriate.
they don't always, like the road paving, the ACAC and Mayor Commission would probably deem that project inappropriate for public art, and they wouldn't put the 1% to it. Or the signs, that's really for capital equipment and not construction, so they wouldn't associate they wouldn't deem that appropriate for public art, and they wouldn't put the 1% towards it.
That's number 3.
That's referring to number 3 below.
I'm glad to hear that. It saves me before going to the Board of Commissioners.
You gotta make sure. Okay, moving on. Again, while we've got Keith here, it's time to ask questions. If we're done, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Ready,
All right, second?
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.